ambushed on the coast. Heartbreak for the Reds after an injury time cracker, and City flexed their muscles after an early goal of the season contender. Dub Zone is back for the 2024-25 Ninja A-League season. Stick around. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I'm Amy Duggan and it's a pleasure to be back with you for the new season. I'm joined by a couple of legends today in commentator of the A-Leagues, Teo Pellizzeri, and Sydney FC legend, Teresa Polias. Welcome to both of you. Your initials clearly had to be TP to be on the set today, but great to have you here. Teresa, let's start with you. It's good to be back, isn't it? Not a great start, though, for your old team, Sydney FC.
No, not the best start, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. But look, all in all, it's fantastic to have football back for the long run.
The competitive balance in the league really excites me. Some of the traditional powerhouses like Sydney, not off to a great start, and some of the perceived underdogs really competitive. We should be in for a cracking campaign.
Yeah, certainly been a lot of movement too in the off-season. I'm sure we'll dig into that. But what we should do is start with the first game. And of course, the defending champs went down. They were ambushed on the coast by the Central Coast Mariners. What did you make of this result, Teresa?
Yeah, look, a bit of a slow start for Sydney. I was very impressed by the Mariners. They've really hit the ground running, applied a lot of pressure, out-muscled Sydney in a lot of areas and produced a few stunning goals as well.
This strike here from Izzy Gomez, it's not just the goal which is impressive, it's the way she won the ball. The number one player winning tackles and retrieving loose possession in midfield last season, off to a flyer. As a fellow defensive midfielder, that must warm your heart to see such good quality play.
She's been outstanding, and like I said, last season she had an outstanding run as well, and she's continued that into this season, first game. So, her and Jade Pennock complemented each other. I was very impressed with Pennock, very smart footballer.
Yeah, some of the imports that Central Coast has brought in this year have certainly lifted the level.
Yeah, Brooke Nunn and Brianne Riley, they looked sharp and they really looked like they were committed and bought in. Em Husband's done it again. I know it's only one game in, but these players didn't have amazing resumes, T, and yet they've landed flying out of the blocks and against the defending champions, no less.
It's good homework from Em Husband to recruit really well in the off-season, and obviously they've had a good pre-season as a group to go out in round one against the defending champs, no less, and produce a good performance like that.
Sydney missing a few players though.
Yeah, Sydney off to a bit of a misfire at the start. We know that they've got long-term injuries and players working their way back. I was intrigued, T, by Millie Farrow, almost a little bit isolated up top. Shay Connors did have a side-footed chance to equalise, which missed it more or less half the goal and could have drawn them level. And the set-piece taking of Hannah Lowry, pretty good. So they've got the building blocks there. Yeah,
look, you have to mention they have lost a lot of experienced players that have been there for quite a bit of time, and it's going to, a bit of teething issues with new players coming in. It's going to take some time to build that chemistry.
And to be fair to them, if you're losing Jada Wyman and Courtney Vine,
it's huge.
You're allowed to have a bit of a reset, aren't you? Never mind, Charlotte McLean as well, perhaps.
Yes, 100%.
Underrated compared to the other two.
They just looked a bit off the pace though, defensively, especially Sydney. Is this about a short pre-season?
I think so. Back in the day we used to have quite long pre-seasons. They are a lot shorter now, but given the season is long, I know Ante doesn't mind that the first few rounds continue on as a bit of a pre-season.
Doesn't need to be leading from the front.
No sweat.
Well, speaking of leading up the front, we mentioned Farrow had come in up there. Is there enough talent there to push Princess Abini to the bench? Because that's where she started this game.
Well, that's what's happened. There's, Ante is spoilt for choices. So, every performance in training is going to matter. So, for whatever reason it could have been a niggle, it could have been illness, we don't know. But, he is spoilt for choice, and it appears that, there were others that Ante went with.
And this broke a 75-game streak of starting. She hadn't come off the bench since 2021. So what does this say to both Abini but also to the other forwards in the group?
Look, I guess when you frame it like that, Teo, it does make me doubt that it is down to performance purely because, having lost all those players, it's crazy not to start your most experienced player who led the side for much of the season last year. So, look, like I said, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. It could be player management where she may have a tiny little niggle that, you're not going to risk it in round one with Princess.
Well, Sydney coach says she's one of the hardest trainers he's got, T, so it certainly opens up some questions. Let's move on, though, to the opening game of the round because it was Western United and a 6-goal thriller, a flurry of first half goals, but ultimately started with an own goal.
Yeah, and Wellington Phoenix, first 15 minutes right up to this point, they were the dominant team in the game, but an instant response, one Grace Maher long ball, and all of a sudden the Wellington defence capitulated, and all of their work to build into the game, went out the window. Home ground advantage and also the power of Chloe Lagazzo's leadership were all big factors.
Yeah, and that Lagazzo goal really sparked them for that game. It got them going. It was a slow start from United, but to me, it's a common theme with them. It's like they like going down a goal and it kind of wakes them up a bit.
Do they need adversity?
They love being fighters.
The underdog.
Yeah, they do. I think it suits them well. I think it's worked for them in the past and will continue to do so.
Big story out of this. This chaos here led to Paul Temple making a triple sub at halftime, including taking off New Zealand international centre-back Mackenzie Barry, who scored in the Olympics. Halftime sub. So Paul Temple went from a back three to a back four at halftime. Wellington won the second half 1-0. Couldn't quite get a comeback going, but I think there was plenty of evidence not to throw out the baby with the bathwater on round one.
Well, let's talk about some of those positives, because obviously they dominated possession, but ultimately defensively leaked for, which is never good. So what is positive and what do they need to work on?
Look, obviously Temple wasn't happy, and that's a huge statement, and obviously they put in a lot of work in the pre-season, didn't deliver that out there because a coach wouldn't make those big calls and substitute three players at half-time, experienced players at that. So, yeah, he obviously wasn't happy, and you can see moments of the philosophy that he wants them to play out there, but, yeah, just the quality wasn't there. They have lost Speckmeyer too, up top.
Plenty of chances to finish, but it just never found the back of the net.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with it. If you're not finding the back of the net, it's always going to be hard against when you're away from home as well.
The cohesion between Alyssa Wynnum, who we saw had one of those great chances shot straight at the keeper, Mania Elliott and also Daisy Brazendale off the bench. If the Phoenix get that happening for 6 or 7 of their players, those 3 are an awesome combination, controlling and moving the ball. They could be a really formidable team if they can expand that across their entire attacking unit.
For Western, though, they were really led by Chloe Lagazzo, and she was absolutely outstanding out there, obviously trying to push again for Matilda's selection, but central to their offence.
Yeah, and it's good to see her healthy and back out there, and, the work ethic's there. She actually, led by example and spurred her team on, combined really well with Zimmerman. Carly Johnson was really, great as well, scored a good goal. So, yeah, I'm pleased for Chloe that she's out there again.
That was one of the positives for Western United, Teo, 4 different names on the score sheet.
And players who have been cursed by injury in previous seasons, all up and running. Lagazzo and Zimmerman in particular. Zimmerman only played 5 or 6 games at the back end of last year, and injury has kept Lagazzo out of the last 2 final series. I know it's only round 1, but they must already have a plan to get these talents to the finish line. Make sure you get enough points to make finals, absolutely. But I think their big long-term goal will be to make sure that all of these players who've had issues in the past are peaking at the right time of the season.
And to tighten up those defensive errors that cost them a few goals. Now, if you like what you've seen in the first round of the Ninja A-League, then you're in luck, because the Ninja A-League Women's Pass is available for under 16s. All you need to do is sign up online. You can use it for the first 4 rounds of the Ninja A-League, and you also get access to double headers as well. Sign up online and use the barcode for entry to all of these games in the first 4 rounds. Let's move on to Melbourne City, possibly one of the favourites again this season. Aren't they always so strong? 7 goals in this match. Who would have seen that coming?
Absolute thriller, wasn't it? And City going down by 2. Perth were in a really good position, and they just couldn't hold out. They were just overwhelmed by that quality in the latter stages.
We're looking at the first half highlights, and really, Teo, they all belong to Perth.
Yeah, and Stephen Peters after the game, he actually said in a post-match press conference that the feeling maybe crept into the team a little bit too early. My goodness, we're going to win. And Melbourne City, you see this is 2-1 in the 52nd minute. They just unleashed and, they had the answers off the bench. First half, they were nowhere. 298 passes without a shot on target. The halftime team talk tee must have been something special.
Yeah, and look, it has been a little bit of a characteristic of cities at times where they are playing just possession-based football for what seems possession's sake, and they're not getting that finishing touch.
They've got new fullbacks this year because, Julia Grosso and Caitlin Torpey no longer around. And it means that while that team adjusts, they're so reliant on Rihanna Pollicina. It's not a surprise that she was player of the match.
She delivers, though,
because she turns a lot of that sterile possession into meaningful attacks.
She does. She gets forward. She creates space for herself. She's got nifty feet. And any opportunity she gets, she takes.
There is one big issue I'd like you to both dive into, and it has to do with goalkeepers, a position that none of us have thankfully ever played for real in the Ninja A-League. But when we're talking about Melbourne City, and we have witnessed a few mistakes, Merez versus Barbieri.
Look, I don't think this would be an issue unless Barbieri hadn't said this to the A-League's website in pre-season. Better goalkeeper now than I ever was. That doesn't sound like the talk of a number 2 goalkeeper. Now, Merez had an error in the AFC Champions League against Bam Katoon, ran under a corner, and it was the only goal they conceded in those 3 games. And then caught off her line, not just for the 2 goals, but a couple of other times. And Perth did try the long shot, just couldn't score them. So, T, where are you at on the goalkeeper debate at the moment?
Look,
is there a debate?
Well, there would be a debate for a lot of people, but I take Bubs' word for it. She's there. She's very experienced. If she says she's feeling like a better goalkeeper than she's ever been, then, that position should be as competitive as any other on the pitch.
Would you start her?
I think if you want Merez to turn this around, you almost need to pull the ripcord now, put Bubs in and see what Merez's response is. Let's not forget the goalkeeper they had in last year's grand final, Barbara, was herself an injury replacement, and then she missed, and they had to sign another goalkeeper, Emily Shields, on grand final day, out of retirement just to sit on the bench when Bubs started.
And she's kept healthy. She's never injured, Bubs. She's, always at the ready, so throw her in.
I understand it from a cultural and coaching perspective and, bringing the team together and leading out there. But I do think Bubs' best days are behind her because clearly when she was the Matildas goalkeeper, they were her strengths. That was her strength. That was her strong time. Anyway, shall we move on? Because there was also that audacious goal by 23-year-old Kelly Brown. That was amazing.
And this is just a great moment for Kelly Brown because, we've seen her at Phoenix a couple of times. Now she's linked up with Stephen Peters, her coach in NPL New South Wales at Macarthur, where she's been a goal machine. And it feels as though this is a nice fit.
It's a great fit. And just look at that intelligence there, albeit she had all the time and space for that, but she did notice the keeper off the line, and what a bomb. Absolutely timed that to perfection, and very pleasing for Kelly Brown.
Reminiscent of a goal you called for the Matildas recently, I think.
I think a lot of people were inspired by Kyra Cooney-Cross during the week. Kelly Brown certainly wasn't the only player to try to score from that sort of distance.
Has some goal-scoring pedigree in the NPL under her belt, that's for sure. 23 goals the year before and 11 this season. So let's hope that's the first of many for this season. All right, let's take a look at Newcastle and Western Sydney Wanderers. This one ended 2-2. The first goal has a little bit of controversy around it. Talk us through it.
Well, a lot of the goals in this game had, I would say, interesting moments, both defensively but also from just a concentration and rustiness point of view. T, what's your shout when you see a pass like that or a situation like that unfolding?
Look, the pass to the keeper's ordinary there, but in saying that, that's got to go first time there. You just don't take touch there as a goalkeeper. It's danger. You've got Sophie Harding breathing down your neck. It's got to go.
Even as a defender, giving the ball to the goalkeeper there and putting her under pressure without the communication of it's got to go first time, it's a worry.
Wollongong alert, that was Sienna Saveska from Port Kembla scoring Wanderers' second goal, but they got back into the game at half-time with T, did this cross the line from Devon Jackson? Amy Chisari is the only one that can tell us if it crossed or not. And
here we go.
You got to trust the referee, right? But Wanderers fans definitely thought they were hard done by. But then in the second half of this game, Lara Gooch came off the bench, has the assist here. Newcastle rained down chances on the Wanderers' goal. They did very well to come out of this with a 2-2 draw.
I did see a post you made, Teo, about XG, and it made sense this time to me about
expected
Newcastle.
goals.
Growth, development. I love it.
You've taught me well. But yeah, look, that, like you said, a flurry of chances and shock that they didn't come away with the win.
It was a fantastic match to watch because it was so tight. And what I loved about Newcastle was that they were pushing forward, playing forward and in the box to follow up on those shots off the goalkeeper and ultimately rewarded for that. Now, a name that we did see out there on the pitch that we haven't seen on the football field or the round ball game football field for a couple of years was Sheridan Gallagher, welcoming her back from rugby league.
Yep, well, big welcome back to Sheridan, and she's a tough player, has come from rugby league as well, so Always, she's the type of player you want on your team and not to play against. That's my experience. But yeah, she came on and did really well as a sub. Hit the ground running, really.
We'll be kicking herself that she couldn't take one of the many chances that were falling. But I think what this tells us about the Newcastle Jets is they came to an agreement with the Knights, with the NRLW, the ownership of the club. That situation's been looming over them for such a long time. The new owners were integral. This is the chance, by the way. Should have buried that. But the new owners of the club were integral in bringing Sheridan Gallagher across and setting up this dual sport athlete situation. It says to me that Newcastle are really serious about their program this year, and if they can sense a chance at success, don't rule out the phone call to Emily Van Egmond for another guest contract. I think that Newcastle's owners are all in on trying to really push this season.
I think it was fantastic to see her back out there, especially given her tenure as a youth player in our national team system. But she will have to watch her tackle technique this time around. Different game. Anyway, also, how does Newcastle replace what they lost up front this season? Because, as you mentioned, the finishing wasn't quite there. Is it just about finishing at training and making sure they get in the groove, or is it about finding somebody to do the job for them?
I don't think they've got a problem. They created so many chances. I think, like you said, it is just a matter of getting out there on the pitch, training pitch, and practicing your finishing.
For those that don't know, Melina Ayres here, her shirt was held up by the players pre-game. She's on a sabbatical from football, just burnt out, needed a break, and hopefully... she played in the NPL over winter for Charlestown at Zuri, scored for fun. She is Melina Ayres, but in order to commit to the training and sort of the year-round football, I think that she needed that break. Hopefully she comes back, and we all anticipate now Gia Vicari, the Italian-American from Rutgers, who is their new signing to play up front, and a late addition from the Danish league that will hopefully score the goals that maybe they couldn't at the weekend.
Well, that's what we're looking forward to. And, of course, what would the Ninja A-League be without a bit of fun? And we have to thank Robbie Hooker for this fine moment during the game.
Now, you got a yellow card for this, T. Is that...
Did he aim for the fourth official?
is a former Socceroo heading the ball a yellow card offence? Well, Beck Mackey clearly thought so.
Oh, I think, the intent there was...
Is that kicking the ball away? Is that what's going on?
Something like that. But did he aim for the fourth official? That's what
you thought there was more to it. Anyway, adding a few laughs and a little bit of colour to the game for us. Unite Round is also coming up.
A-League's Unite Round is back.
Oh, my words!
Experience the ultimate 3-day celebration of football in Sydney this November. 14 clubs, 6 double headers, 2 massive derbies and global icons. Soak up the energy at the Unite Round fan zone with DJs, football activities, food trucks and meet your football heroes. Get tickets at Ticketek, search Unite Round.
But we're going to move on to the Adelaide and Melbourne Victory game. This one, 5 goals as well. I can't believe how many goals we've seen across the first round of the Ninja A-League. I think this is a good thing, certainly is for entertainment value, but it does raise some questions over defence.
Yes, it does. And a bit of a patchy start for Victory, I thought, even though they came away with the win. I was impressed with Adelaide's start. Given they've had a couple quiet seasons, they looked to be pretty sharp, and having Fiona Wirtz back, scoring as well, was a huge positive.
And you hear from the reaction, great home support. Adelaide, they will be more competitive this season.
Yeah.
I think they've made incremental improvements across every department. That will be a concern, how they defended Gilnick in the air, and a hat-trick last season, 2 goals this season. But it's the character, it's the fighting spirit within Adelaide to come back that was perhaps the most impressive thing.
Yeah, and Amy did say it, that the questionable part of a few of the games has been that defending in the box, where players are sort of just being given too much time and space in the critical area.
2-2 we see here, and it was right there in the 92nd minute. Ava Breedis finds the back of the net and the draw breaker, and brings home the points for Victory.
And she has had a devastating run with shin splints, Ava Brightis. I mean, at the start of the last under-20 cycle, she was first choice in the young Matildas, but steady injuries, missing games, not being able to get on the pitch in either the NPL or the A-League meant that she lost her spot in that team, and now she's at 18 fighting her way back into this Victory team.
Still so young, and hopefully, it's the start of a steady run for her back to, consistency.
What does it mean for youth, though, bringing youth through this system? Because is it something that Adelaide is doing well? Is it something that Victory is doing well?
Well, you have to now. It's a young league. You have to turn to the youth. Teams aren't able to go get 5, 6 foreigners anymore. You need to really develop players now and bring them up into the first team.
And I think a moment of vindication for Jeff Hopkins would have been that Laura Pickett, who's been a train-on at Victory for forever and a day, has been on the bench, never got that first appearance, in for 90 minutes in this one on her debut, and was leading the intercepts and the tackle count for her team. So in a team that needs defensive reinforcement with Ellie Wilson out injured and no clear natural left back in the team, yes, they've got Bunge and Morrison in the middle, but with Lydia Williams also out indefinitely with a wrist injury, I think that Victory are going to need a lot of those younger players to step up into roles that maybe aren't their natural position.
How young's too young though? Because we've seen 15 and 16-year-olds. We saw a couple of exemptions last season.
Yeah, if you're good enough, you're old enough to me. That's the way I see it. Yeah.
Missing school, training through the day, balance of life.
It's elite sport. You do make sacrifices, and sometimes your priorities are shared at that stage. But yeah, you make it work. You want it.
Look, I think that Victory is probably a good case study because someone who made those sacrifices like Beattie Goad would bring her homework to training and be studying in
she's
breaks.
Taken time off for her career too, and she's
and is now like really wrestling with football and a professional career as yourself, T, and many of players in the league are still doing. I guess when you're in high school, at university, maybe working a part-time job, that's your opportunity to.
Yeah, that's the time to do it.
But as the PFA would want, we want these players to be full-time pros sooner rather than later. But we've also got to live in the now.
Yeah.
And it's 1 week at a time for these players and these coaches.
Well, let's bring us back to the now, because a name that made a return for Adelaide was Fiona Wirtz, and it was great to see her back out there.
Yeah, she was awesome, and I remember her return last season was a bit slow, but this time she's really hit the ground running. She was sharp. The goals she scored were from follow-ups where you could tell she was just always aware, always at the ready. So very pleasing to have her back scoring.
She was in the UK and seemingly not coming back to Australia, and just her love of Adelaide is what turned her around. And memories of that Dolan medal winning season a couple of campaigns ago. There's a lot of familiar faces at Adelaide. They've had a few players out injured at the weekend, like Dylan Holmes and Izzy Hodgson, but the band is essentially back together there. Great to see Emily Condon starting a game. And Fiona Wirtz is the finisher. Chelsea Dorber will come back after maybe missing the first month of the season, still recovering from hip surgery. And, Adelaide will be hoping that they can climb the table from their wooden spoon finish.
I think they will be back this season. You can just see they all look happy. The energy is there.
I'm not going to ask you who's going to finish last, but what we are going to do is watch that goal go in the back of the net again and be grateful for Fiona Wirtz in the Ninja A-League. Moving on to Canberra, because there was so much doubt over was Canberra even going to play this season. They are a very new look side with a new coach and managed to pick up all the points in the first round.
A big start for Canberra. New faces, but, in true Canberra fashion, they were that transitional team, and that's what worked for them. I thought Brisbane, were the better team in a lot of ways from a footballing perspective, but Canberra got the job done.
I really like what Anthony Jagranek is doing as a first-year A-League women's coach. He was assistant to Negos Popovic in the past. Now, I think the pre-season philosophy of Canberra might be to be a more defensive, less chaotic team. And the reality is, winning 3-2 probably does reflect that. Maybe the Canberra of old might have been at a 4-4 or more, given the number of quality chances that were created. But we know they have great home support, a parochial fan base, and really great spirit. This Canberra team, there's a lot of players on their third or even fourth club, a lot of players that couldn't get minutes in the bigger cities with the bigger teams. They're all out there with chips on their shoulders to prove a point.
Yeah, Janaea DeSantos, one of those that's come from Sydney and walked into a starting position in Canberra, and a double for their new signing, Maya Markovski, to hold off the fast finishing Raw. They did try and chase them back with a few minutes to go, but Maya's a great story because we saw a few years ago at Victory and then nowhere last year, but she's come back with a bang, and two of them.
It must be confronting to play for your childhood club that you've supported all your youth, get the chance to play for them, and then get released on a free transfer. Maya Markovski went back to the NPL, won the Golden Boot, won the Player of the Season, got really serious with her attitude. She's always had the height and been a developing player with her skill. And I just think that mindset change and sort of the elite football mentality is kicking in. And now, still only, 21, 22 years of age, learning from Michelle Heyman as a strike partner, she has a rare opportunity here to kick on to another level because we don't get too many strikers this height, really. Heyman, Kate Gill, Markovski's in that category, but she's got a long way to go to do this every week.
She does. She's got unique characteristics and she's in a good place. At Canberra United, it's a safe place. She's got players like Michelle around her that will nurture her, and it's an opportunity for her to make a statement now.
Well, there was a delight to watch my old home team pick up the 3 points, and if I'm allowed to be biased, I will be, because I was glad that they won. Plenty more to come, of course, because round 2 not too far away. It all kicks off on a Friday night with Western United and the Central Coast Mariners. That's a home game for Western United. Kick off for that one at 7 p.m. All these games are on 10 Play and Paramount Plus, except for this one, the Melbourne Derby, Melbourne Victory and Melbourne City, Saturday, 2:15 in the afternoon. That one will also be on 10 Bold, followed by Brisbane Roar and Sydney FC. That will be tough after both coming off losses, T. Wellington Phoenix, Canberra United, Western Sydney and Adelaide United, and Perth Glory and Newcastle Jets rounding out Sunday. That one with a 6 p.m. kickoff. Am I allowed to get some tips on how you think this round will go?
I've got some bad news for you. I think the defending champs are going 0-2. I think Brisbane will beat them in Brisbane.
Well, that's a big call
this week.
Teo.
Well, nothing new for Dove Zone, let's be real.
Look, it's always interesting when two teams that have lost the first round come up against each other, so I can't wait for that game.
It certainly will be a big weekend. That is Dub Zone for now. Thank you to the Ginger Ninja, Teo Pellizzeri, and also the other TP on the desk, Therese Police. Great to have your company. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week.